Most of you probably know who I am, but if you don't, my details are as follows. My name is Sami Laiho. I'm a senior technical fellow in my own company called Adminize, and Adminize is a training and software development company both. I'm an MVP on the Windows OS. To be exact, I'm Windows Expert IT Pro, but it's too long to remember and too long to type in. I've been training and consulting Windows infrastructure and security for more than 15 years, and I actually got an idea of starting to do this after I was asked to do it since last TechEd. So this is actually the first one that's aimed to the US market. If you do use Twitter, I hope you'll follow me on Twitter. I tweet a lot, and I need followers desperately because MVPs need to have followers. It's so fast and easy to send stuff on Twitter, so I'm traveling all the time, and I honestly don't have that much time to do blogs anymore, so Twitter is an easy way to share information, so please do. That's at Sami Laiho. I always have a few slides that I show in almost every single presentation that I do. This is a picture of my first XP deep dive in 2001, which was done below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean in Gran Canaria. So I'm also a scuba diver instructor as well. I had to combine this somehow, although the Lenovo laptops really didn't survive the trip, but we had a really fun time. That was in the XP time frame, so a long time ago. A few projects that I would like you to know about as I have the chance to show them. That's the marketing stuff, and I promise you that's it. So Adminize.com has the new trainings that I do. I do online training and on-site training both, so you can find the training schedules, and you can find the course titles on that website. Then I've done a free replacement for Steady State. That's even used in US quite a lot. So it's a kiosk machine for Windows 7 and Windows 8, as Steady State is no longer available since Vista, which was the last one that supported Steady State. Always you don't want to use Windows Embedded, as it's not very easy to implement, but Wioski uses a totally different approach. As you can use refresh or reset options in Windows 8, it still takes about 15 to 20 minutes to reset the machine to its previous state, as Wioski does it in 18 to 25 seconds, so it's usable in more circumstances. And also a safe password cracker, which I've even written down a note to myself to call it a changer rather, as cracking is bad. But it was actually done for Windows Active Directory administrators who lost their built-in administrator accounts on domain controllers, so they needed a way to reset those. And I bet you that if you ever download a Linux password cracker tool from internet, you have never seen anyone who has first read the source code before using the cracker tool. So the biggest malware infections that I've been dealing with were because of a tool that was supposed to be a Linux password cracker, although it was actually a bootkit that infected the whole network. So that's a scripted thing with full access to source code, so you can have a safe way of resetting passwords. If I'm struggling with my words, you should understand where I'm coming from. I'm from Finland. It's probably minus something in Finland right now, so it's extremely cold. I'm quite happy to be in Bellevue with the sunshine. English is far from my native language, so I hope you can understand me, and please, if you have any questions, I would like to have them on the chat window. I'll stick around a few minutes after the session, so you can ask questions online, of course, if you wish, even using your mic. But if I'm struggling with my English when we're talking about cracking the local administrator account, which is usually the case, you are cracking an account called the administrator, as we are cracking a user account called järjestelmän valvoja. which is far from the longest word in Finland. So our languages are totally different, and J.R.R. Tolkien even used Finnish language as the base for the language of the elves in the Lord of the Rings, as it was the most non-understandable language in the world that he could find. So yeah, I come from a far away place. Yeah, there's another one. You're using GP-Editor MSC on your Windows, as we are using a tool called Ryhmäkäytäntöobjekti Editori. So that's not the longest word I could find in Finnish. Just for you guys, I used Wikipedia. I'm in a lucky place since I haven't had the need for Wikipedia in about like 2 years. Because I actually got married about 2 years, and my wife seems to know everything, so there's really no use to use any Wikipedia. But this was the one that I got from Wikipedia, and the longest word in Finnish. Sasa is asking about if this is going to be on the T-shirt as well. I don't know if it would circle around your chest. It might, because the longest word from Wikipedia was this one. So. It's a word in Finnish. It's basically something like unsystematic in English, but it's epäjärjestelmällistyttämättömyydellänsä käänköhän, which is a kind of a tough one even for a native. But that's the start and that's the introduction side of this presentation. So what are we here for? I'm hoping to demonstrate you lots of demos on how easy it is to penetrate a Windows system if you aren't prepared for it. And I hope you can get some reasoning for you or your bosses to show why you need the money and time to implement the Windows 7 or Windows 8 security measures that I'm going to demonstrate you. After the session, I will send you an email, probably tonight or tomorrow, and which will have some content on my actual course titles and stuff like that, and also links to the recordings. So that's what you'll get. As I'm presenting this for free, that's the price that you're going to pay. You are going to have to get my email, and of course from my email list you are able to unsubscribe whenever you wish, but I am doing my newsletters in a way that I haven't had a single unsubscriber, at least until this time, so I hope you will enjoy it too. If you need to email me, just bounce an email to sami@adminas.com for any needs. The demos that we do might be quite fast, and we're using Link, so the recording is of course beneficial. And I'm trying to do this in quite slow motion, just to be sure that you can see it. I have a Surface Pro next to me, which I can see the actual demonstration like you see it. So I hope you can still stay along. If you've got questions afterwards, don't hesitate to ask them. The first topic that we're going to go through is hard disk encryption. And hard disk encryption has like 2 reasons to use it for. You need the data encryption, meaning that if your laptop has data on it, there's a bit more than a year old questionnaire, or whatever you call it, a poll done by a company called Ponemon Institute, that says that more than 800,000 laptops get lost or stolen from the biggest airports in US and Europe every year. So that's excluding China, Australia, Africa, South America. And still almost 1 million laptops get lost or stolen. So yes, you need hard disk encryption to protect your data, but also you need it for every single device because of how easy it is to crack into a living Windows OS, or not living Windows OS, but a Windows OS as such. We're going to do this demonstration through a demo. So I've got some virtual machines running on Hyper-V, and Let's see if I can log on. Hopefully I can remember my password. Actually, let's show you first what kind of user accounts this one has. So here we go. This is a Windows 8.1 machine. Let's just type in net user and see what kind of user accounts we have. So there's the administrator account and a demo account. So just to make things a bit harder for me, what I'll do is I'll change the administrator password to something that I cannot know. So I'll change it to a password that includes the random variable. So I have it's a number between 1 and 32,000 something. So there's no way of me of knowing what the administrator password is from now on. There's also a demo account, but we can just use the administrator account. That's fine for demo purposes. If you normally are on the logon screen of a Windows computer, so let's just sign out from here. There's some stuff that you can use to penetrate the machine. So usually when you press, for example, the button down here, which is ease of access, that's one. Then there's a thingy that you can press Windows P to change your display. But the one that I use most is one that works from Windows XP all the way to Server 2012 R2. So all supported OSs have a common file that we can use. It's called the sticky keys. So if you press your Shift key 5 times in a row, you usually get this. What we are going to do is we're going to attack the sticky keys. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to restart the machine, and I will reboot it from an external media. This media can be any Windows installation media since Vista, or it can be a Linux. Any way that you can use to get access to the file system. If it would be encrypted, I couldn't do this. What I'll do is I'll go to this is just the Windows 8 installation media, so I'll just change the layouts to be a bit easier for me and harder for you. You can press repair your computer, or if you want to be super quick, then you press Shift F10, so you can get a command prompt. I'll just change the command prompt fonts to a little bit bigger size so you can see it. Here we go. Let's try and find the Windows installation itself. So it's on the C drive. I'll change to the Windows System 32 folder. And if I'm doing this to a relative or someone else that you have to actually support, then it's better if you do a backup first. So you'll copy the zhcexe to zhc back. And after that, what we'll do is we'll just copy cmd.exe on top of the zhcexe. It's a protected exe, so that's why I'll do it offline. And well, I don't have access to this computer anymore, so that's also another reason. Yes, let's replace it. And then we'll just exit the installation media. And let the computer reboot normally. So here we go. Just wait a second for you to see it as well. Now we are again trying to log on to this computer, but compared to previous case, now if we press the Shift key 5 times, it's actually really cool because you can say people that just use brute force, just bang on the Shift as hard as you can. So when you bang on the Shift for 5 times, you actually get a command prompt. And we'll just change again the fonts to a little bit bigger size so you can see it better. And now we have, luckily, the system account, so that's the root user of Windows. If you really think that administrator can do stuff on a Windows machine, then you definitely need to be on my courses, because he's like a small kid with no access compared to Mrs. System. There are 3 accounts in Windows which we refer to as local service, network service. Those are referred to as he, because they can't actually do anything. And then we have Mrs. System, because she can actually do everything. Let's start by viewing the user IDs. So first we'll just crack the admin password. So let's use administrator and put a password, for example, QWERTY1. No, sorry, add. Actually, I don't need to add it because I'm just changing the password. So now we know the password for the administrator account, and if you think administrator is like disabled by a policy, you can enable it, or you make a new account. So NetUser hacker password QWERTY1 and make him an administrator. Now, let's exit that one. And then we can log on. So other user dot /, so it's a local user, hacker QWERTY1. So you can actually break into any supported Windows operating system except the server core. So if you have a core version of server 2008 R2, 2012 R2, those don't have the ZHCXE. So that's kind of a one-off way of protecting against this. But all supported OSs running a full graphical user interface can be cracked into with a single copy command. That's ridiculous if you ask me. So how do we secure against this? First of all, we need BitLocker. There's basically 3 ways of using BitLocker. You can use BitLocker with the plain TPM chip. That's the easiest way because users won't get any prompts for PIN codes, passwords, USB sticks, etc. And it's still secured, I'd say up to 99.9999% of the cases. If you need more protection, you can have an external authenticator, either a PIN code or a USB key. I tend to get into really silly conversations with my customers on the security of BitLocker itself as people start talking about using PIN codes, which are easy to forget. That's a mental, mental proof of identity. Or you can use a USB key, which is like a physical proof of identity. So if you get tortured, you can throw the USB key away. But if you have a PIN code, they could torture you and you would have to give them the PIN code. Sometimes these conversations get really out of hand. But you can do a secure, not as perhaps the highest security, but you can do a really, really secure BitLocker environment without using the PIN code or the USB key. Why am I talking about this? It's because of slates. So these new tablet machines on Windows 8, they actually don't have a keyboard. So I saw people running on the Microsoft campus using Surfaces, and they had actually sold out all the USB numpads. You know, you don't have a whole keyboard, but you only have the numpad that you can put on a USB. They've sold out those because people are buying those to be able to type in the PIN code. So they're actually using the numpads as PIN code pads for their tablets. So that starts to get quite silly. You can use a TPM only, but then you will have to do some preparations on your system. So first of all, you should choose correct hardware, meaning that if you can choose, you'll choose stuff that has a TPM, of course, and then a UEFI, because it supports Secure Boot on Windows 8. On Windows 7 you can't use Secure Boot, so it's a bit tougher case, but it's still possible. If possible, don't take laptops that have PCI Express bus, as it's the easiest way to penetrate any machine with a BitLocker. Lock your UEFI, keep Secure Boot enabled, use a group policy to block FireWire and Thunderbolt if you have those. Windows 8.1 actually has a really cool new feature that when you lock down the computer, it actually blocks FireWire and Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt and FireWire both, as PCI Express, support something called the DMA, Direct Memory Access, which gives you the ability to read and write memory as you wish. So it's extremely dangerous. Although those are kind of cool hardware, it's still extremely dangerous to BitLocker. If you want to be really secure, you should block the sleep modes that are called the standby modes. So you would always use Hibernate, because then the memory won't be alive and people can't read the BitLocker keys from the memory. There's a attack called the Princeton attack, where you attack the memory in a way that you take the computer, then you open up the case, then you use cold spray to freeze down the memory chips, and then you use a USB key with a really small kernel and boot up the machine and read the BitLocker keys from the memory if the memory is alive. So that means the computer is either on or in a standby mode. That's actually impossible with the new Windows 8 Secure Boot, as you won't be able to boot up using the USB key because it's not an signed OS, so you can't use that. So Windows 8 basically blocks the whole Princeton thingy. The only way to get the keys would be to actually open up the case, take the chip, freeze the chips, take the chips and put them to an external reader. And this starts to be something that, if you ask me, I'm not saying that I've done it, but I'd say it's 10 times easier to torture someone or give them some chocolate and get their PIN code than going into these details. The PCI Express stuff that they use to get the codes, those are about $5,000 to $8,000 if you buy them. They're available on a website called, for example, called Windowscope, windowscope.com. I've got the hyperlinks later on here. So that's the first one. Then we're going to a second one called the UAC, User Account Control. Since Vista, internet has been full of different reviews of Windows saying that Windows Vista, Windows 7 is basically usable as long as you disable user account control. Why shouldn't you disable user account control? First of all, there's a really big misunderstanding on UAC. So people tend to think and tell me that there's no use of using UAC on an admin account because it asks yes or no if you need the admin account's permissions, and the user will always say yes. So there's no use of using it. There's no idea on using the UAC. But it's actually not true. UAC is not asking you yes or no every time it uses the higher permissions. I'll show you a demo on that so you see it. UAC protects only admins, so if you are doing as I tell everyone to do and run as a limited user, then you don't have any use for UAC, only for cases when you want to change to an admin account. If you need one-time admin passwords for UAC, you should check out my website because there's a company that produces software that does this, one-time admin passwords. We will do a demo on this. So what I'll always do is, depending on the conference that I'm talking in, I'll change this slide to be appropriate for the crowd. I use many times I use this Nokia Lumia thingy. So if you just get a PowerPoint which says that if you click this and press enable, you can get a free Nokia Lumia. You should see, like at TechEd, when there's 1,500 people trying to get their computers out of their bags and doing this, although they should never do it. I did the same for our company's employees in Finland, using a really cute golden retriever puppy, and the PowerPoint said that please pet the puppy and press enable so you can see more cute puppies. Seems to work quite well, but that's social engineering, so it depends on the crowd. But I'd say, as this is recorded and Microsoft will see this, it's kind of a, I'm not sure how wise a thing to say out loud, but I'd say PowerPoint is one of the best ways to hack yourself into any company. What happens if I click here? It actually says enable or disable, but this is from Office. This is not UAC. So if I do as they requested and press enable, actually nothing happens. You might see a command prompt flickering here really fast. I don't think Link can even show it to you because it's so fast, but nothing happens. I'm totally secured. What it's actually trying to do, if we'll let the mouse hover over a bit, it's trying to write a small registry entry in the computer's registry. So Windows Registry has this really cool thing called the image file execution options, which is there for their own debuggers. But you can use it to fool any software to run some other software. I'll show you a few demos on this, but first of all, I'm running UAC, so although I'm an admin on this account, there's still nothing happening. If I press the Windows combination, Windows U, we get this Ease of Access Center. That's Windows U now. Even though I click this, Windows U is still the same thing. It's Ease of Access Center, which pops up. Let's do the same thing in a virtual machine. I'll take a virtual machine. Actually, let's take this one. We're running as Hacker. Hacker is someone that we just made, and he's an admin for sure. But what I'll actually do, because that's a new account and I haven't copied the PowerPoint to its desktop, what I'll do is I'll just change to another account. I'll log in as admin. And let's see the desktop. And here we have the same PowerPoint that you were looking previously, 8 ways to secure Windows 8. But what I'll do is I'll just shoot up a command prompt with elevated privileges. So you press Ctrl Shift Enter instead of just Enter. And you get the question of UAC. Yes or no. Okay, let's say yes. So I can run this thing with the higher permissions. What I'll do next is I'll shift right click the PowerPoint so I can get the option of copy as path. And then I'll just open it up from an elevated command prompt. So now we have the same PowerPoint without UAC. And we can test it out. So let's first try to find the correct slide from here. Here we go, this one. And we'll just try it out. So before I click the click here, let's see, Windows U opens up Ease of Access Center. But if I click here and press enable, something happens. And if I now press Windows U, you actually get a command prompt. I won't use it now, but whenever I get physical access to this computer or a remote desktop access, and I'm not logged on, there's a cool button in the left hand corner down here, which I can press to get system access. So the PowerPoint actually injected this in the registry, not copying the file, but doing a registry thing, which I'll show you. So I can do the same thing again, just crack the let's change hacker's password, for example. Command completed successfully. Okay. I'll log in as admin and show you how it works. You can really play with this and your friends, but I hope you use this for, as Mark Minasi says, I hope you use this for good, not evil. So I'll open up the registry. And here we have a registry key called the image file execution options. You can actually see the whole path down there. HKey local machine software, Microsoft Windows NT current version, image file execution options. Now what I can do is I can inject any exe I wish and have it use a debugger of my choice. So now that utilman exe, which is the Windows U, is starting a CMD exe, I'll just get rid of that first. Delete. Yes, now Windows U works like before. So we get the Ease of Access Center again. And let's play around with our friends. So I'll just do a new key here. New key, which is called notepad.exe. And we'll do a new value debugger. And we'll say that whenever someone tries to use the notepad, they will always get the calculator. This is extremely powerful in a way that if I use notepad from here, I always get the calculator. So you know, if your user would have to know to go to Windows, System32, and then find the notepad from here, and then right click and say open, and actually no, it just fools everything. So you will always get the calculator. Some malware use this as well. You open up F-Secure or whatever anti-malware engine, and it actually opens up a malware. Let's take that away. Delete. Yes. I actually know that there's someone in the crowd using a Mac. So I had just a few weeks ago, I had a friend of mine who was struggling with Mac, always shooting up the magnifier, because there's some kind of a key combination with the Mac keys that opens up magnifier quite easily. So if you want to get rid of that, you can do a key called magnify.exe and then let it use a debugger called null. So now whenever anyone tries to magnify the screen, actually nothing will happen. I will remove that so I won't forget it here. So what the PowerPoint did, if you want to see the PowerPoint, I can quickly show you what it actually does. It's really dead simple. I usually use it so that you only need to hover the mouse on a picture, so I can tell them like please pet the puppy or something like that. So if you see here and just check the hyperlink, so the hyperlink is actually a reg.exe command which types in this image file execution option in the registry. If you are using UAC, no worries, you will never get these, but if you are not using UAC, then PowerPoint can do really nasty stuff on your computer. So how to solve this? You just get rid of admin rights, and if you need to use admin rights, you always want to use UAC. The next case, unsigned local policies. This is just a case example. I won't show a demo because it's really simple to do. The weird thing in Windows is that you actually don't have any kind of signing in the policies. So if you take a computer and prepare a policy as you wish, actually I always change my mind, and I'll change my mind even now. So I'll show you a local group policy. For example, if I would do a local policy on this computer, and for example say that on every single startup, please run netexe with the parameter of user, admin, password, add, and then another one, netexe local group administrator user add. What name did I use for the user? It was called admin, so sorry. Admin add, and actually it's administrators. So this way. Now whenever this computer starts, it will create an admin account with the password and insert it into the local administrators group. What I can do next is just take the local C Windows System32 group policy folder and inject it to any computer. Start up the computer, usually 2 times, and then I got admin access. That's ridiculous that it works in that way, but we can't do anything about it. The only way we can protect against it is by using this policy. It's called the turn off local group policy objects processing. So then local policies won't process at all. So it's protecting you against this one. So if you don't need local policies, you could use this. As we are talking about group policies, that's a nice topic, as looking at from a little bit different perspective. Group policies are often referred to as something that gray out your settings. So people say that that setting is grayed out because we have a policy. But actually group policy has nothing to do with the settings getting grayed out. It's because of the settings residing in a certain place in the registry. We'll do a demo. This should show you why you will not allow local admin access to your users. So what we have here is a Windows 8.1 machine which belongs to a domain. So if I see the settings about remote desktop, and we'll see it here, remote, it says that my computer allows remoting in. But I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm a local admin, so I say no. That's not okay for me. Okay. And then our administrators do not agree with me, as they want to have 100% access to all of their computers. So what we'll do is we will do a group policy which has actually just single setting. And the setting says that allow users to connect remotely by using remote desktop services. Okay, I'll just enable this. So link enabled. And then I'll go to the workstation. And what I'll need to do is I need to run GP update to get the policies instantly. I didn't run GP update /force because there's no need to. We'll talk about that also here. So what actually happens is that now if we'll check the sysdm.cpl, which goes to the computer properties, and we'll go to the remote, and now you see, okay, it's grayed out. So now I'm an admin and I still cannot prevent remoting into this computer. But what I'll actually do is I'll open up the registry. First what I'll do is I'll go to Microsoft's website and download an Excel sheet called the Group Policy Settings Reference, because Group Policy Settings Reference has all the group policy settings and it tells me what the registry keys are that the group policy setting actually changes. So what I'll do is I'll read from there, and it says that allow remoting is in the HKey local machine software policies Microsoft Windows NT terminal services. It's here, FDNI TS connections. What I'll do is right click, delete, yes. Let's see the remoting settings, and I can do what I want. So it's that small registry setting. If I'm an admin, I can always delete it, so there's no use of doing the policy if there's an admin sitting at the desk. So I usually end up in a conversation when my Active Directory administrators are telling me that I'm sorry, Sami, but you will lose this battle anyway. Why are they saying it? They're saying it because group policy refreshes every 90 to 120 minutes. So by default, Windows runs GP update every 90 to 120 minutes. Let's see what happens. If we would wait for 90 to 120 minutes, what would happen? Nothing. Why is this? It's because Windows by default, if you don't change the Active Directory settings, it only updates group policy every 90 to 120 minutes using the GP update, not GP update /force. If we would run manually a GP update /force, That would work. Sorry, I was a bit too quick on this one, so let's try again. GP update. Yes, here we go. And that's probably not the easiest way of doing it. I'm trying to shut this down, but let's do this CMD and run it from here. GP update /force. And if we now check out the computer properties, the policy actually is reapplied. That's because GP update by itself only applies group policies that have not changed. So it would never come back to me before someone at the Active Directory end would do something to the exact do something on the exact policy that this was read from. And probably that will happen perhaps never. They can use it. They can do, and they can change the default settings. So Active Directory has a policy setting for these sorts of cases. If you are interested, you can see it from here. I can show it to you. There's group policies divided into pieces called the client-side extensions, and all client-side extensions have their own settings. So if you go to System and Group Policy, and for example the registry policy processing, you can change the way it is refreshed. So there's a setting called the process even if the group policy objects have not changed. Now it will come back after 90 to 120 minutes, but by default it will never come back if someone at the Active Directory end won't change it. And even if my Active Directory guys do that and then they again tell me that Sami, sorry, you are losing this battle anyway, something that I won't tell them is that Windows is so silly that if Windows computer doesn't have read access to the policies, they cannot apply. So I can just block myself from reading the policies that they do, so they won't apply anyway. This gets refreshed once in a while, but you might need to do it again, but still it's like ridiculous, but that's the way it works. Actually, if you think about it, why GP update /force seems to be a new trick up in help desk sleeve. Like everyone, whenever you ask anyone like this stuff is not working, they will tell you just run GP update /force. Why is it working so well? It's working so well because GP update /force is only run for the security settings every 16 hours. But otherwise GP update /force is never run, not even during the system startup. They only use the plain GP update, which only reads policies that have not changed. So disobeying group policies. How to solve this? Don't give end user admin rights. Make sure your policies apply as you wish, and if you need to change the defaults, talk to the Active Directory guys. If your environment is a place where GP update /force is always getting you out of trouble, you should think about it. It's basically something wrong with your Active Directory. It's not supposed to work in a way that you have to run GP update /force all the time. Now that we have local admin rights on a computer, the next step is to try and gain domain admin access. We are going to do this using a bait, and we are relying on the fact that most of the admins are lazy in a way that they only use 2 user accounts. They will use accounts, well, even only one account. They use those accounts that have the most power, so their job would be easier. What we'll use are scheduled tasks, and a really weird thing that was changed to a bad way since Windows XP. In Windows XP this wasn't as easy doing scheduled tasks. using scheduled tasks, but in Windows 7 there's a really weird bug in this. So now that we are on this computer, I'm already an admin, so that's a domain admin, so there's no way of using that. So let's sign out and change to the hacker account that we did. We cracked into this computer using the hacker. So now we have local admin access. I'm pretending to be a normal user in our company. So I have hacked my own computer to gain admin access. And what I'll do next is I'll open up the task scheduler. And insert the bait. What I'll do is I'll create a new task here. Create a task. And the task is called test. And I will run it using our company's admin account, someone that I know. In this case, it's called admin. I'll use my normal user account for the domain just to get read access to Active Directory. So I'll find admin from our Active Directory. Here he is, admin. Okay. The weirdest thing is that if I do this and press OK, it won't ask me for admin's password as it did in Windows XP. I'll say run with highest privileges, so it will bypass UAC. I'll do a trigger. The trigger says that whenever anyone logs on at logon, please run a command of netexe with the arguments group domain admins user. He's called user, so let's add it, and we'll do that on the domain controller. So what we are doing is we are trying to add the user, named user, to a domain admin group in our Active Directory. Then we'll leave it there, and we'll call our support. So let's go to our support. Our support is here, and our support is, let's see, they are supporting a user called user. So let's check out that user's properties. This user is actually member of domain users only. Okay. And then I'll call the help desk. This is Sami calling. I'm in an extremely busy situation. I'll have a webinar in a few minutes, and I just cannot log on to my computer and get PowerPoint working. Could you please just remote desktop and try to fix it so I can still have the webinar? And we'll just hope that the guy who starts doing it is doing it in a way that they are not supposed to be doing it. So using accounts that have too high permissions. So they are connecting to the demo client, which is probably blocking the remote desktop because this one should work instantly. I just did a demo effect for myself, so let's go see if we would allow the remote desktop before we ask them to help us. So sysdm.cpl, and let's see, remote. Okay, that's allowed, so it should work now. So we are allowing remote access to remote desktop to this computer. So let's go back and see what our server says. So here we go. Demo client. You will never believe me when I tell you that yesterday that we did this to Australia. This worked like a charm, but it actually did. So let's just see if we get the demo client computer is not replying to pings at least. Ping at least. There might be a firewall rule actually enforced, which could cause this. So let's go and see it on the client side. Sorry for the small hassle here. So what we'll do is we'll actually, let's use CMD and let's use regedit to block the policy that they have. Policies, Microsoft, Windows NT, terminal services. Let's take that away. We can get full access to it. sysdm.cpl remote tab. Let's say allow and apply. Let's see what it looks like now. That actually should do the firewall exception. So yes, now it works. Okay, so now the guy is in a situation where he would decide on what kind of user account to use for the help desk. So if he's doing it the correct way, he would be using a user account that has full admin access to all workstations and perhaps member servers, but in no way should he be using the domain admin account. So we'll just hope that he is using his domain admin account. Okay, and he's remoting into the Windows 8.1 machine. This is actually not the demo effect because I know that this takes a while. It's in the I don't know why, but in the new client Hyper-V, sometimes these internal connections for remote desktop just take a second. So we will have to trust that it's working. So here we go. Adminize is logging on. Okay, there's someone else logged on. Do you want to sign in anyway? Yes, please. Let's throw them out. So there's hacker is actually waiting, probably for a timeout. I will actually go and see if they're waiting for my approval. Yes, they are. So click OK to disconnect your session immediately. Yes, please. I don't want to waste your time waiting on this. So what we'll do is we'll just accept the remote desktoping into, and let's go here. Okay, now Mr. Admin is from our domain controller remote desktoped in, and everything seems to work. So we just probably have to call the user because there's a PowerPoint is actually working for him. So there's no, probably it was just a user error. So everything seems to be working quite okay. What happened? Just to recap, what did I actually do is I remote desktoped into the computer and opened up PowerPoint. So I'm actually on the Windows 8.1 client right now, and I'm testing that the PowerPoint is actually working quite well. So I call the client and tell them that I actually remote desktoped into your machine. So you will probably you just had some kind of a typo or something, and everything seems to be fine now. So admin logs out again. But what happened at the Active Directory end? Now I'm on the domain controller. So the guy remote desktoped into the virtual machine from here, and the user is here. And let's see what the user looks like. So here you can see now he's actually part of domain admins, because when I remote desktoped in, the scheduled task fired up, and the scheduled tasks used my domain admin permissions to add the user to the domain admin group. So just by using a bait and local admin rights, we can actually gain domain admin rights. What will we do so that this won't happen again? Let's take him out of the domain admins group. Remove, yes. Okay, now he's only a domain user again. So domain admins need at least 3 levels of user accounts. One for reading email, so a normal limited account. Then they need a account for administering all the workstations and member servers. That's what they use daily for help desk stuff that they need to fix computers. And then one for administering the domain itself. So they won't use that daily. Windows 8.1 has a new thingy that can prevent this. So if the admin had used mstsc.exe with a parameter called restricted admin, then this wouldn't happen. But that's not in Windows 8 or 7, that's only in the newest Windows 8.1. Restricted admin, if you use that, you will have admin access to the computer you are remoting into, but you will not have access to any computer out of that. So it will work for the one you are connecting to, but cannot be used outside from that computer that you remoted in. One thing that I really like in Windows Enterprise, so it's sad to say that this one is only available in Windows 7 and Windows 8 Enterprise version, but it's a thing called the App Locker. So nowadays software can install easily without admin access for both desktop software and modern apps, so we need a way to control this. If you only have a pro version of Windows 7 or Windows 8, you could use software restriction policies. It's not that bad. Actually, if you use App Locker, the settings that you do are written to a registry key called SRPv2. So it's software restriction policy version 2, but they had to rename it to App Locker because people didn't like software restriction policies, so they don't want to name them software restriction policy version 2, but they had a new cool marketing team name called the App Locker. Let's demo this. So what we'll have here is we'll change to the Windows 8 machine and we'll use a normal user. So a restricted user called user to log on. Sorry, it's not the local user, it's a domain account. So let's try again. So here we have Mr. User, and he's actually trying to install some software on his computer. I usually use TeamViewer as a demonstration because TeamViewer is something that it's really nice to show people that even if you don't have admin access, you can still give full control through all your firewalls, etc. Because TeamViewer goes through almost all firewalls. So App Locker, it's a really cool way of demonstrating why you need software whitelisting and App Locker. Because a normal user can give access to your internal network in a few clicks. Because we don't have internet connectivity from the virtual machines, I'm going to use Firefox instead. So we have a user that doesn't like IE and he wants to install Firefox. And when he installs Firefox on this, after extracting the installation itself, which just takes a while, let's wait out. So here we go. It gets up to speed, and this is what happens. He doesn't have admin rights. Sad. So he can't use Firefox. But Firefox is like Chrome and Spotify, for example. Those are really cool in a way that if you don't have admin access and you press no, then it will install without. So we'll just install Firefox, and installs to the local user profile, so there's no need of admin access and the program works. The same goes for TeamViewer, the same goes for Spotify, Chrome, etc. So how can we block it? First of all, we'll need I've done something beforehand, and what I've actually done is I've started a service. So Windows has a background service called App ID service, application identity. I'll need some more power, so let's go use hacker. And here we go. We have a service called the application identity, which is normally in a manual startup type and not running. So I've actually changed it to automatic and started it up. This is needed by AppLocker. What I'll do next is I'll actually create an AppLocker rule. So I'll open up Group Policy Editor with some more permissions. So gpedit.msc, if it didn't catch your eye, what I'm trying to do is gpedit.msc, so the local Group Policy Object Editor, which is here. And then we'll go to the computer configuration, Windows settings, and security settings, and there we have application control policies. So what we can do now is we can first of all choose AppLocker modes. AppLocker can, it's the only thing in Windows 8 that can actually whitelist also the new modern apps. So if you want to control what people can run from the store, that's the only way of doing it. Otherwise everyone can install and run all software, because Windows 8 doesn't require admin rights for any app installations, only for desktop installations. So what I'll do is first I'll choose the rule enforcement mode. It can either be audited or enforced. Auditing will only produce event log markups, but enforcing will actually block it. So here we go, enforce. We can do it for executables, MSIs, scripts, and the new modern apps. So I'll enforce executable rules, and then I'll do a list. Executable rules. First I'll create some default rules for AppLocker, which says that anyone can run anything from program files, and anyone can run anything from Windows, and admins can run anything anyway. Well, that's by design, because Windows security states that anyone who has admin access can do whatever they want to. So that's basically quite good for a simple installation like this. I have done our company image, I know exactly what's on that, and then I'll use AppLocker and say nothing outside of my image is allowed to run if I don't give it the permission to run. That's the best proactive way to block malware in your environments. It's better than reactive like antivirus and stuff like that. It's proactive. I'll bet you it's really hard for a malware to inject this computer, because it's just not on the list and you are not using admin rights. So to get something running, you would have to be able to put it in the Windows folder or the program files folder, otherwise it won't run. So there's our policy, and let's try this out. So here we have Firefox. Your system administrator has blocked this program. Okay, here we have TeamViewer. Your system administrator has blocked. Zoomit, blocked. Mozilla Firefox, blocked. Now everything is blocked, so Zoomit is not working. I actually want to use Zoomit, so how would it work? Well, I could copy it to the program files, or I could do an AppLocker rule to allow it. But the bad thing is that Microsoft actually has a bug in this. So as I said, it's one of the best proactive ways of protecting your computer. Still, you have to know what you're doing and what you're dealing with. So to make it secure, you will have to do some exceptions, otherwise I will not let you get through your security audit reports, because sorry, that's admin. Let's try a normal CMD. So I'll just take a normal CMD without admin rights. So here I am, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to run my sysinternals tools, which are here in the sysint. So if I'll run, for example, Zoomit, it's blocked by group policy. But what I'll do is, if I know what I'm doing, I'll actually show you what I've done. Let's go here. And what I've actually done beforehand is I've used the sysinternals tool called the access check. And what access check does, it allows me to go through different registries or file folder constructions and go through what kind of permissions I have. So what I'll do is I'll just check the Windows folder for all folders that actually have write access to users. Although Microsoft says that no user can write into the Windows folder or the program files folder, they actually missed 3 folders. So there's a hole in Windows, you could say. So you can actually write with the normal user to tasks, temp, and tracing folders. So what I'll do next is I'll just copy the zoom it to see Windows tasks, for example. It's there now. Tasks, zoom it, works like a charm. So you will actually have to do an AppLocker rule that has an exclusion for the tasks, temp, and tracing for the Windows folder. And you should always use access check to audit your images to see what kind of holes your images have built in. So we use AppLocker correctly. You have to have the enterprise version. If you don't, you can use software restriction policies. It's in the group policy object as well, but in a different node. So a few steps below the AppLocker policies, there's something called the software restriction policies that works on Pro version of 7 and 8 as well. Use always whitelisting. There's no use of doing blacklisting. I don't know why someone would do blacklisting except for a certain small case of a unwanted software like block Spotify, like something like that, but usually you just do a whitelist. Why people hate AppLocker is basically because they think that you have to list all the files. But the biggest thing that you're doing incorrectly in that way is that you should be using containers. So that means that you use folders like program files, Windows, C software, or whatever you need, and it's folders, or you use certificates, but you don't use the file names or hashes, because then you will have a list of 2000 X's that need to be run, and then your admins won't like to do the administration, and then you'll just disable it and forget it and lose the benefits of it. DMA, we're a little bit over time, but I'll continue because we had some trouble with reconnecting, so just a few minutes, it won't take long. Always know your hardware, so DMA is one of the easiest way of cracking computers. I would use it if I had to crack into a computer that had BitLocker, for example. That's the first thing I would try to do. So FireWire, Thunderbolt, PCI Express, all these buses have the DMA enabled, so they can write and read memory as they want. If you want to see some solutions, you can go and see lostpassword.com. They give you tools that you can retrieve BitLocker passwords with, and Windows Scope is really cool software and they also sell the base PCI Express thingies, though 5,000 to 8,000 is the price tag. If you are using FireWire and especially FireWire and Thunderbolt, then you should do policies that prevent the use of those by default. So only if people really need it, you will enable it, but otherwise it will be blocked by a policy. There's even a KP article because BitLocker is used widely in the world, and Microsoft has really good instructions on this, because otherwise you won't be able to create a secure BitLocker environment. I just had some people telling me that they would never use BitLocker in big environments. I've got companies with tens and hundreds of thousands of computers running BitLocker, so I'll tell you loud, you will be able to use it. It might not be the easiest, but all the things that we're talking about here, it's not only BitLocker, it's all hard disk encryptions that suffer from the same weaknesses of DMA, so that's not even a BitLocker thing, it's a bigger issue. You shouldn't give anyone end user admin rights. So my company does training and also some products to hopefully help you with this. But that's the main thing. Whenever you do any Windows security related stuff, the thing is that you will need to take out the admin rights of the end users. That's the basis, because Microsoft security policy states that if you are part of the local administrators group, you can do whatever you wish on your computer. So first you take the baseline of removing the admin rights, and then you can start thinking about stuff like firewalls and AppLocker and BitLocker and UAC and stuff like that. But that's after you've done the base. It's not always easy. Some people tell me that you can use only one account, because if you use UAC you will always get the prompt of yes or no. But I've actually got a demo on this called the Rubber Ducky. I don't know if you use these, but Rubber Duckies cost about $39 or something, and I bought them from the US. You can order them anywhere in the world, but whenever I come here, I usually buy a few, because it's the amount of money that you will have to pay for shipment is as much as the product itself. Rubber Ducky is a USB key that actually has a micro SD reader in it and a small chip to pretend to be a keyboard driver. So you inject the USB key in your computer, and it will use the keyboard driver. So I've actually got a really nasty stick here in front of me, and I'll use that. So I won't use it on my own computer. I will use it on my virtual machine, because otherwise I'm in deep trouble. What we're talking about here is that if we have, for example, the hacker account, which is a protected admin account. So whenever I try to use some software, for example here, if I logged into the computer and I'll try to use some software that needs UAC, you will get this question. And what Microsoft promises is that this is in a protected secure desktop, meaning that the program itself is running in a session behind, and this UAC window or the dialog is run in a different session. So the program itself would never be able to press yes. I've got my computer next to me again losing its connection, so I'm not sure if you are experiencing the same thing. There's luckily seems to be 21 participants, so let's see. Now I got a picture again. Yes, cool. It was only the other computer that lost connection. So UAC, the only thing that could ever click yes if a malware, like the command processor in this case, if the command processor was trying to press yes, the only way to press yes would be to have a keyboard driver, mouse driver, or any HID device. So some people tell me that although you teach that you need to have a limited user account and then an admin account, nowadays you don't, because you have UAC. So UAC will protect my admin, but it just won't if you have something like the Rubber Ducky. So what I'll actually do is I'll just insert this in this computer and hope it goes into the virtual machine, because otherwise you will lose me forever. This stick, actually what it does, I've slowed it down so that I hope that even through link you can see it actually performing something. So I'm just injecting it into my computer now, and it's actually starting up a CMD. It's answering yes to the UAC prompt, and then it types one key in the registry. And actually that one key destroys the ACPI platform totally. So this Windows machine does not have a power management platform at all, which means that if you shut it down, I didn't shut it down because I want you to see it. So now I'll just restart it, and this computer is actually totally fried. So there's no way of booting this computer anymore after I inserted the stick, because there's no power management platform in the whole OS. So it actually can't even perform a blue screen memory dump, because it breaks up in an early phase before anything is loaded that could do the memory dump. So it's not getting anywhere. It'll just circle around and stay here and crash finally. So thing is like this. It's not enough to have a UAC protected admin account. but you will actually need to have the limited account as well. Make admins use limited users in their daily usage and UAC always. Make your domain admins use 3 accounts. We've talked about this. Tools that I use currently, one is the one I did myself because there was not one on the market that I could use, so I built it. It's called the Adminizer. It gives you one-time admin password, so people sitting in a hotel can install a printer, for example, without you giving them admin access on a permanent basis, but one-time admin passwords. I use Privilege Card. I've used Beyond Trust. There's lots of those on the market. So whichever tool you choose, you need a tool that you can give admin access for processes and not users or computers. So you can say that our AutoCAD needs admin rights instead of a user needing admin rights. So that's what I use for big enterprises, so that we can actually get the admin accounts away from them. It's not easy to take admin accounts away from like software developers using Visual Studio or stuff like that. It's really a job. That's why it's one of my consulting jobs as well. We're almost 15 minutes over time, so I'm really glad that you stayed, and even through the few glitches in the internet connection. I'm going to send you the info and give you the link to the recording itself, so if you want to view this from a video file rather, you can also do that. I hope that you had some cool info on the security side of why you need this stuff, and I hopefully gave you some demonstrations on how you can convince your boss on doing or giving you the funds to do this as well. You should also get funds from your boss to come to my trainings as well, so I hope I can see you on my online or on-site trainings. So just head to win-foo.com or adminize.com and go to the training part of my website, and you can see it there. And hope you can follow me on Twitter. I also do consulting on anything Microsoft, so security auditing, penetration testing, and Active Directory designing and auditing, whatever. You can contact me anytime at sami@adminize.com. And with this, I'll thank you. I'll change to the chat room for a while. So thanks everyone for joining, and I hope I'll see you on sessions in TechEd or other places, and especially on the courses. But let's change to the chat room now. Thanks everyone.